Is there a more dangerous, more intoxicating currency in Major League Baseball than the failed starter who discovers his true self in the bullpen? It is baseball's great reinvention story, a recurring myth that never seems to lose its power. Careers that teeter on the edge, arms that look destined for obscurity, suddenly reborn when the leash is shortened and the instruction is simple: throw everything you have, right now. And as we continue our deep dive into the 2026 Toronto Blue Jays, there is one name that embodies that transformation more than any other. A man whose journey reads less like a stat line and more like a survival story. Welcome back to the Blue Jays Report, because today we are talking about Louis Varland, a pitcher who may quietly be the spine of this entire bullpen. To understand why Varland matters, you first have to understand where he came from. Baseball has a long memory, and it is rarely kind to pitchers who fail loudly. Born in St. Paul, Minnesota, Varland was living a dream that felt almost scripted. Drafted by his hometown Twins in the 15th round of 2019, he was the local kid made good, the sort of story fans love to believe will end in parades and statues. But baseball, as always, had other plans. Dreams don't break gently in this sport. They shatter. Between 2022 and 2024, Varland tried to survive as a starting pitcher, and the league treated him like prey. Lineups turned over, then turned him over. Mistakes multiplied. Confidence drained. By 2024, the numbers were brutal enough to make even the most loyal supporters wince. A 7.61 ERA. AFIP north of 5. Nearly 50 innings that felt like a public unraveling. Every start became a referendum on whether he belonged at this level at all. The Twins stood at a crossroads that franchises know all too well. Do you cut bait, or do you try to change the story? They chose reinvention, and in doing so, they may have saved his career. In 2025, Varland was moved to the bullpen full-time, and something extraordinary happened. Freed from the burden of pacing himself, freed from the demand to face hitters multiple times, he became something else entirely. His stuff played louder. His confidence returned. His fastball jumped. Over 51 games, he posted a sparkling 2.02 ERA and struck out nearly a quarter of the batters he faced. The pitcher who once looked overmatched now looked menacing. He had found his identity. Then came the trade deadline, and with it, the moment that would define his legacy in Toronto. The Blue Jays were pushing hard for a World Series, desperate for bullpen reinforcement, desperate for arms they could trust when everything was on the line. They made a move that split the fan base straight down the middle. Louis Varland and Ty France arrived in Toronto. In exchange, the Jays sent away top pitching prospect Kendry Rojos and the surging outfielder Alan Roden, a player many believed would be a cornerstone of the future. At the time, it felt expensive. For some, it felt reckless. If you were watching closely, the early returns only added fuel to the fire. Varland's first month in Toronto was rough. Really rough. A 7.36 ERA. Missed locations. Hard contact. The whispers began almost immediately. Had the Blue Jays overpaid? Had they panicked? Fans watched Alan Roden's potential elsewhere and wondered if this was another cautionary tale of trading youth for urgency. The narrative felt heavy, and Varland wore it every time he stepped onto the mound. But baseball has a way of rewarding those who endure. What followed was not just a turnaround, but a revelation. Somewhere between bullpen sessions and high-pressure outings, something clicked. Whether it was a mechanical tweak from Pete Walker, a mental shift, or simply the slow burn of adaptation to the American League East, Varland locked in. Over his final 9 innings of the regular season, he was untouchable, posting a 1.00 ERA and forcing his way into John Schneider's circle of trust. Not the polite trust reserved for low-leverage spots, but the real thing. And then came October, where legends are forged or forgotten. The 2025 postseason was relentless, a marathon disguised as a sprint, and Louis Varland became its most tireless runner. He appeared in 15 of the Blue Jays' 18 playoff games, a number so absurd it sounds like a typo. It wasn't. 15 appearances, setting a new Major League record for a single postseason. Night after night, the bullpen phone rang, and Varland answered. No complaints. No hesitation. Just a man and a baseball, again and again. The raw postseason numbers tell part of the story. a 3.94 ERA that looks solid but not spectacular. Context, however, is everything. That line is skewed by a single swing, a towering home run from Aaron Judge, one of the most destructive hitters the game has ever seen. Remove that moment, and you are left with a reliever who battled elite lineups on minimal rest, who absorbed pressure like a sponge, and who refused to blink. He wasn't just pitching. He was surviving. So why did it work? Why did a pitcher who once crumbled as a starter become indispensable as a reliever? The answer lives in the arsenal. Once Varand moved to the bullpen, his velocity surged. His fastball now averages 98.1 miles per hour, a number that changes how hitters behave before they even swing. But velocity alone does not explain it. Varand brings a rare four-pitch mix for a reliever. A blazing four-seamer, a biting slider, a curveball that disappears beneath barrels, and a changeup that keeps left-handers honest. Most relievers simplify. Varand expanded. That depth allowed him to survive nights when one pitch wasn't cooperating. It allowed him to face tough matchups repeatedly. It allowed John Schneider to deploy him in almost any situation. The postseason workload told us two critical things. First, his arm can handle stress that breaks others. Second, the coaching staff sees him as essential. Going into 2026, the question is not whether Louis Varland belongs. It is how the Blue Jays protect him. As we look ahead, Varland represents something front offices crave and rarely find: cost-controlled excellence. He is under team control through 2030 and does not even hit arbitration until after this season. In a league where elite relievers command enormous salaries on the open market, having a pitcher with this kind of stuff earning near the minimum is a competitive cheat code. It gives the Blue Jays financial flexibility to invest elsewhere while keeping a bullpen backbone intact. Projections for 2026 reflect that optimism. Systems like Steamer see him settling into a mid-3 era with a strikeout rate hovering around 25%. More aggressive models go further, forecasting a breakout season that places him among the most valuable relievers in the American League. Over 65 to 70 innings. Those numbers matter. They swing divisions. They end rallies. They decide seasons. There is also a conversation quietly forming about his role. Closers across baseball are volatile. Injuries happen. Confidence wavers. And when that door opens, Louis Varland has the temperament and the arsenal to walk straight through it. He carries himself like someone who wants the ball when everything is on fire. Saves may not be his job on paper, but do not be surprised if they find him. So was the trade worth it? In hindsight, and increasingly in foresight, the answer is tilting firmly towards yes. Prospects are meant to become players like this, not just names on lists. Varland enters 2026 not as a gamble, but as a pillar. A pitcher forged by failure, sharpened by pressure, and proven under the brightest lights. Now I want to hear from you. That postseason workload was historic, but is it a warning sign or proof that he is the workhorse this bullpen has been missing? Do you miss Alan Roden, or are you satisfied knowing the Blue Jays have a 98-mile-per-hour weapon under control until 2030? Let me know in the comments. If you're excited to see Louis Varland bring the heat this season, smash that like button, share the video, and subscribe to the Blue Jays Report. The season is almost here, and this story is only just beginning.